allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, call to order of the meeting. November 17th, we have Todd
Present.
Mark, John Elkins,
Here.
Marilyn Stout,
Here.
Grady Stevens,
Here.
Kathleen Falastini, Bill Simonelli,
Here.
and Miss Ines Stantoro tonight. Okay, resident comments. Who signed up?
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Eric, were you first? Come on up, Eric. Thank you.
Am I the only one?
You're the only one, but you still only get 3 minutes, sir.
I know.
You don't get the
Give me
30
more.
minutes.
Give me more.
So I just have two quick things. One is there are some fairly new residents here that have contractor and contract administration experience along with myself. I've done a lot of IT work where you had to produce an RFP and go through the evaluation process and then build into the contracts stronger performance requirements. So I would like to suggest to the board that you give consideration to standing up a little contractor committee that would report maybe to the finance guys and could assist us with building better RFPs and getting to good, tighter contracts so that we don't have. Pardon me? Yeah, anything that's major, yeah. Not, if it's a small job, no, but that was number one, just a suggestion. The second is, I know we're going through the due diligence process on replacement roofing, and all I would do is I would caution the board to make sure we do whatever is necessary, including maybe hiring an engineering expert to weigh in on whatever you pick to make sure it's going to be durable for the hurricanes that we get here. So because I know metal roofing and metal shingles they're a bit lighter, and what the last thing we need is people that bought a metal roof and now we get hit by another hurricane next year, they lose their whole roof because it was too light. We didn't consider it. So I just would suggest that in our due diligence we pick an independent expert to weigh in on that. That's just my opinion.
Nobody else? Okay, approval of minutes. We'll start with October 27th. Any comments on October 27th minutes? That's the one where we had the young lady singing for us and City of Cape Coral Waste Management.
I wasn't here for the October 27th because I was on a previously planned trip to Portugal. But I read them, and I don't see any reason to have an objection to them. So can I make the motion even though I was not present?
Probably doesn't make sense because you weren't here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but anybody else can.
I move we approve them.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now the minutes to the meeting, November 10th, last week.
Yes. And I believe that I'm in error to not totally understanding what the motion was on the resolution proposed. The part that I have the problem with is that that it eliminates a lot of residents, I believe, because you cannot assume that a homeowner's insurance company will suspend them. I mean, that's an assumption that may not hold true for those people that want or need to have a new roof or have it repaired or whatever happens. I know in my own case, I have been encouraged by my insurance company because my premium runs from January to January, but they start early encouraging you to renew. So that certainly would not be a threat of suspension. And I think it's assuming too much to assume that people are threatened by their insurance company, and I believe they should be allowed, if that is their desire, to have a new roof, that we let them do it. And they don't have to have water damage. I don't think you have water damage, do you, John?
I have some,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you do need a new roof.
Yes.
But with water damage, you would fall within.
Maybe not, water damage is in the garage. I don't know how ticky you want to be on the water damage, but.
I just think that homeowners should be allowed to move forward with getting a roof if they have worked that out with their insurance company without us standing in the way of telling them they're being threatened with suspension.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how,
Well,
I believe that I'm in error in not understanding what the motion was. But I somehow also would like to have an opportunity to correct it or to change it, and I don't know how that is accomplished.
I think at this point you are in the process of approving the minutes.
Right.
So I think there's it sounds like there's
It's two different
things.
it is.
So if you want to either approve the minutes or amend the minutes, that's one thing, and then I think there's different discussion if you want to get into reopening the.
And I may not
I don't
have,
think we can reopen. I don't think you can bring a motion back. I don't believe, I think that there's a procedure that you have to petition for that ahead of time. I'd have to take time and read it because I had just seen it. I just came upon it recently. So I know where I can look. I need a few minutes to look it up and see how we proceed.
okay,
Okay.
You're also missing the full board too.
that's right, Stan's not here.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are going to be addressing this issue again on December 1st.
Pardon?
According to the motion that was passed, we are addressing the roofing issue on December 1st. So I think the spirit of the resolution was for residents that are in a real crunch issue. They have the ability to submit an application to the ARC within certain boundaries so that they can move forward, and that those residents that feel that they are not in a crunch emergency, they can wait for resolution on December 1st and then proceed with their plans for roof restoration.
Is it December 1st or is it December 15th?
First. We moved it up to December 1st. That was one of the
December
changes that we made, Marilyn.
Okay.
It brings up a point, is we were waiving the fee requirement for people who've been damaged. Okay. Will that waiver extend beyond December 1st? Because
I think that's something we'll have to decide as a board on December 1st.
when does it end now?
It's a 6-month waiver right
Oh, it
now.
is? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everybody forgot that.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure that
Good.
we don't run out of runway on December 2nd.
Can I make a couple of quick comments? Is it appropriate now, or do you want to wait until we get into the actual issue?
For roofing? Because roofing's not on the agenda tonight. So go ahead, if it's
I'll be
not
very
appropriate.
brief. I'll be very brief.
Okay.
I totally agree with Marilyn. Totally agree with Marilyn. We made a decision on materials as far as alternative materials, and there's no intent to unwind that whatsoever. Agreed?
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to do something, then they
Right.
need to have the ability to do
Yes.
it. I think, and it was a little murky as we went through there, but I think the spirit of it was to help folks that have an emergency situation now And on December 1st, it's not a decision on how we go forward, because we've made a decision on product, that we're going to allow alternative products. But it's a situation to address the emergency situation now, develop standards and guidelines, and move those into our permanent standards and guidelines based on what we do on December 1st as far as picking specific material products.
Okay. All I want to do is help the residents without putting binders on. You know,
Yep.
I would imagine that insurance companies are not threatening their policyholders, except I have heard, because I just started taking my dogs to the park again, and one of the individuals said they have to have a new roof. They've got 4 roofers that have applied and taken pictures, and so they know they need a new roof, and her husband wants the metal roof. But she understands there's restrictions about the metal roofs. And I said, I don't think so, not as to what was decided, but I didn't know that she would have to be threatened by her insurance company, because I don't think any insurance company is going to threaten their policyholders at this time. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe some will, but they certainly weren't.
I think it's my opinion, you answered it correctly. We've made a decision on materials that there will be alternative materials allowed to be used. There's an emergency provision that allows people to do what they need to do if they have to do it in order to mitigate their risk. But then we're going to take those alternative materials, set up specific standards and guidelines so that we can bring those into the document moving forward, so that we have a document to live with. So yes and yes to your answer, and this may be a little murky, I would agree with you, but the spirit of it is exactly what you said, that property owners need to be able to make a choice. And again, I'm also sensitive to what ARC is trying to accomplish with making sure we don't have pink roofs and yellow driveways. We've got to make sure that that's part of the standard. So anyway, I said I'd be brief, but it wasn't. We're on the same page, Marilyn.
I move we accept the minutes as read.
Second. And because it was my misunderstanding, I'll also approve the minutes. It's just I would have voted differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Or asked that one portion be eliminated, but it is as Todd said, so yes, I will vote to approve.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Motion passed?
Did we vote?
Oh.
We didn't vote? No.
Sorry, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, CenturyLink provided Sandoval a discount for interruption of services following Hurricane Ian in the amount of $17,691.45, roughly half of the month's bill. That's $12.41 per door. So the thought process is, and I'm not sure if this is a vote or not, but I think it would be on how to handle that. But the suggestion was putting together the CenturyLink budget for 2023. When we come up with that budget, to deduct this $17,691, therefore refunding the residents their share per household. So I'm opening that for discussion.
When is that credit going to be applied to their invoice?
Their invoice?
Yeah.
It would be coming off of the entire, let's say next year, CenturyLink is $800,000, we would be taking off $17,691.
No, I understand, but one for which invoice? The invoice monthly, so it would be
This $17,691
Yes.
is next month.
next month. Okay. All right.
Why don't we just take it off the first quarter's bill? Now, the first quarter bill is going to change anyway.
Yeah, it's going to go up.
Well,
Yeah.
You can make it a line.
Yeah, we
item
can make an
and show
adjustment for that in the first quarter bill. I mean,
So that becomes, so people are kind of set up their 4 quarterly payments
Yeah.
all at once.
Of course,
So
correct.
what this would do is they would have to change their first quarter payment by getting this discount, and then make the other 3/4 a different number.
We did that last year. I don't know
So
if it was good.
the only other suggestion, Kathleen, is that we apply that credit to this year to handle any potential shortfall that we're dealing with. That might be cleaner administratively also, because first of all, the residents would not have to deal, it would reduce any potential withdrawal that we would have to make from reserves to cover any shortfall, number one. And number two, it would relieve the administrative burden of creating asymmetrical payments through the course of the year.
How was it issued? Was it issued as one lump sum, or was it issued a credit per door?
It was issued as one
Because- Yeah, because
$17,691 on the
it's
invoice.
a single bill
For
to
the month of
to the
October.
community on a monthly basis, Jen.
Great.
No, I'm Todd. That's great.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm in your court. There's no sense in giving 5 back and collecting 10. I don't think anybody would object that we need to put that money so that we can cover any expense shortfall from the hurricane.
Yeah,
It's only a drop in the bucket at that.
it is, and we'll see in a few minutes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll make, go ahead, I'm sorry.
As long as you didn't want me to write individual checks of $12.41 to everybody, I'm good. Okay.
Well, I would
It's,
make a motion Chuck does that, because I'd like to watch.
It's 2 bid max ahead, right?
I'd make a formal motion that we take that credit back, that we apply it to, keep it in the operating account and apply it to any shortfalls that we have with purchase expense.
For 2022.
Yeah.
I second. Yeah.
Any discussion, further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the 2023 operating budget is, work is underway, and we have received the reserve study, and Bill Simonelli will be touching base on both of those issues later. I would like to just ask for some rules of order for our board meetings. I asked directors not to speak out of order without being first acknowledged by me as having the floor. Secondly, when a director is speaking, there will not be any interruptions. There should be no what's referred to as grandstanding at board meetings, and with that I mean no standing, no addressing the residents as though we're lecturing or commanding their attention. Residents are not to be addressed. We're doing business with us. This is why we kind of changed the seating tonight, to get that idea that we're a family, a business, the 7 of us, to try and do business. And we should only address each other and do so in a respectful manner with dignity. I bring it up because last week looked to me like a British parliamentary meeting with a lot of calling out, interrupting, brouhaha. We need to work together to determine the best case scenarios for all of Sandoval. So that's just something that I was asked to speak on by many people, and it was my feeling too. It was a very, very difficult meeting to manage last week. But so that's all. That's all I have. General Manager's report.
Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about the hurricane restoration progress. As those of you who are here in the community, we've had repairmen working at our gates. Some of our gates are back into a better condition. We have Envira that's been working here nonstop for the last week and a half, putting the system back together so the intelligence that opens and closes the gates still needs a little bit of work, but we're feeling better that the actual physical gates themselves have been repaired to a certain point that we're feeling comfortable about moving that forward. We kind of feel that also the security system also took a major hit. We're confident that the doors in this building and in the clubhouse are now functioning properly. All of our cameras were damaged. I think there was one camera throughout the property that wasn't damaged. All those cameras are back fully functional. So Envira can see through those cameras. The speakers that actually allows Envira to speak to people that are trespassing after hours, those have been put back together again. So from the security system, we're in good shape. This week we did start reissuing car stickers to gain access in preparation to go through the gate. The one thing that we're still lacking in is the ability to create the actual IDs badges for new and replacements. So we have a number of new owners that came to the community and they still don't have ID badges yet. We're optimistic that the software fix that they're trying to do will be completed hopefully middle of next week, and then we'll put out a communication that people can start coming and get their ID badges. Yes, Marilyn.
Prior to the gates being open all the time, my sticker on my headlight would no longer read. And Rick said that with some small cars, it just doesn't work. Is it now time for me to come in and get a sticker put on my windshield?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me make a suggestion. I had the same problem, and sometimes it's a glitch. Yamali just put mine in again and it worked. The headlight sticker
Yeah.
on my truck stopped working. She went into the system, somehow regenerated it. Try that first before you have to buy a new sticker.
Okay.
And the headlight stickers are actually better than
Then the ones up at the top?
yeah.
Okay.
And who do I see?
Yamali,
Okay.
yeah.
Chuck, it seems that I remember reading the email that you sent out. You're still not accepting cash and you're still not accepting credit cards?
It was checks only. We did put an order in
For lobby pay,
for lobby pay.
it was approved at the last board
Is it-
meeting.
What's that?
Lobby pay is actually our ability to collect credit cards.
Oh, really?
A lot of people want to come in and pay via
Does it
credit
cost
card.
us anything to do that?
Oh,
Sure.
Well, the equipment, yeah.
No, I mean per transaction. Are we losing funds per
The
transaction?
transaction fee is passed on to the person doing the transaction, just like you see a lot of days in a lot of different places. Yeah, this was.
We discussed that.
Yeah,
It
this
doesn't
was
reduce
part
our
of.
revenue, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
is it a minimal transaction fee or,
It's a standard transaction fee that most credit cards have.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how the credit card companies make their money.
Sure.
Any other questions on security? Street signs. We were able to have the street sign company come in and straighten as many signs that they could straighten, position, reposition. They took a complete inventory of missing signs. We actually have recaptured some of our signs. We went scavenger and hunt and got all of our signs back. We're putting an order together so we can replace those, and we also have a number of signs that are not on the Boulevard and Parkway that also will be attempted to straighten instead of replace. So, but it's good to see that at least on the Parkway and Boulevard, all the stop signs are back, even though the ones that we have right outside here are the little tiny ones, but we feel a little bit better about that. This past Saturday, the pool reopened. Yay. After a long-awaited, yeah, good. A lap swimmer? Good.
I was in at 11:01.
Yeah. General information, we are currently short 2 staff members, a maintenance/pool attendant and a lifestyle director. We've posted these positions and we hope to start seeing, it's a difficult time right now with the holidays to start recruiting people, but we're optimistic that we'll try to start seeing some resumes come in, that we can start getting some interviews so we can get back to full staff.
Is there any lifestyle function that maybe residents could volunteer to help? Because we've got a big holiday season coming up.
I attend the social committee meetings, and a lot of people on the social committee are stepping up and holiday decorations. I'm your new lifestyle director, and I will be, with the leaf blower cleaning the pool too on occasions. So I really appreciate the additional help that I'm getting from volunteers to help pull things. We have the Winter Festival coming up. We've got a lot of things that we want to keep going. We have trivia night. So yes, the more help I can get, even setting up the room. We're still trying to figure out how do we set up the Pelican building for card games and things of that nature. Yeah. We're getting better at it, but we're going to pull that together. The other update is I will be on vacation next week, going to beautiful New Jersey for a wedding and a holiday where the temperature is currently 30 degrees, so I'm not real happy about that. But I will be checking in with the office while I'm away, barring there's any other emergencies, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank
You too.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Simonelli, Treasurer's Report.
All right.
We need to move back, Phil?
Just the three in the front.
Okay.
Move out of the way, unless they want to be in the spotlight. Okay. So the first comment that I'd like to make is that the data that I'm going to present today is considered preliminary. And the reason why it's considered preliminary is Associa has a process where two independent individuals have to review the financial data before it's released to the community. Unfortunately, between this being a shorter month with the Thanksgiving holiday and a key Associa employee is having health issues, that the two-person rule was not able to be followed. So they're still going to do that, but they got me the data to be in the board so we could have something to look at. But there is a possibility something could change over the next couple of weeks if the mistake is found. Okay. First thing I want to go over is the Fifth Third account. That is stable. The securities that we have there are gaining interest. The current balance as of today is $3.183 million. There's approximately a 3% month-over-month increase from the previous report. So it's growing, it's secure, it's backed by government bonds, so the money is doing what it should be doing right now. Hurricane Ian restoration, I think one comment that just sort of emphasized what Chuck has been saying, the emphasis has shifted from repair to restoration. So a lot of the costs now are related to the repairs of the facilities that were damaged. We're still continuing to work. Some of the numbers are still going up and down. For example, with the stops, with the signs, the numbers came down a bit because of the better quote that we got from the vendor. So it's still a little bit of a up and away here. The budget work for 2023 is underway. The Finance Committee has been engaged with all the key committees. We're starting to roll up data, and the idea is that we will present a proposed budget to the community on December 13th. We'll be sending out an announcement for that. It will be in a public forum. We'll have printouts plus a summary presentation for everybody to review, and that will be in preparation for the budget to be approved at the board meeting 2 days later. As the President mentioned, the reserve study has been completed. It is a key component of what we're working through with the budget. We spent a lot of time, we'll talk about that more on the Finance Committee report, but we spent a lot of time looking at the cost projections and what the implications are relative to assessments down the road. For the budget, we are going to be looking at key increases related to landscaping, insurance, personnel, and restoration. There is going to still be some ongoing restoration work that is outside of Ian or the lightning strike that we still have to fund some activities with. Hurricane Ian. The significant change that has occurred is that we have gotten a invoice from Crawford, and as a result of that, we have our arms around the time and material that was used to clean up this community. So when I was here last month, we said that our estimate was $250,000. The invoice actually came in at $450,000. That represents 3,900 labor hours and 987 hours of equipment usage. So at one point we had, I think if my math is correct, about 16 people working straight 2 weeks doing cleanup during the middle of October. So I think these numbers, although a bit higher than what we originally estimated, are in line with the scope of material removal that we had to go through as a community. We are looking at funding options, as I mentioned. Obviously, we can look at the reserves, one-time assessment in 2023 to cover the net E and expenses, and looking at what we could get from the SBA as a potential loan. So we're still at least a few months away from knowing what the net number is. Once we have to get our insurance claim numbers, and we have to understand what we're getting from FEMA, and then we'll have a better handle on what the net impact to the community will be. But at a gross level, we are thinking that it's going to approach about $1 million before we're all said and done. Moving on to the financials. I've changed the health indicators from green to cautious for two reasons. One is, through the end of September, we were on track to have house sales at the level that were budgeted for the community. We went from about 10 a month down to 4 in the month of October, and sales activity has certainly dropped down since then. So as a result of that, that's why we're now seeing about a $23,000, $24,000 decrease in the budgeted income for the year. So it's still under 4%, but that's where the impact is coming from. The assessments, the collections, there was a bit of a bulge in the with respect to the collections of the assessments, but that has been smoothed out over time, and that number's coming down as we all get caught up from Hurricane Ian. On the operating expense side, we're still at about the same number relative to where we think we're behind, and that's primarily due to landscaping and repair and maintenance cost variances. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Drilling down on the major expenses, we're down. These are the expenses that comprise 90% of our budget and will comprise 90% of our budget next year. Repairs and maintenance variance. Once you take out the $187,000 that was applied to that particular ledger line, we have $142,000 of overruns in the repair and maintenance area. That was driven primarily from gate repairs, pool repairs, and clubhouse activity that was not put into the budget last year. So we've got, so we're going to try to do a better job of making sure all these things are accounted for going into next year's budget. We talked about that we've been underbilling, we've been underbilled from, underpaying, I should say, DTE. So as we do a catch up with them, as we pay them what we owe them, that has to be reflected into the variance also. September financials, this is the remaining 10%. We're seeing some minor variations in these, but I think we'll be drilling down on these as sort of like the second passive effort. We just got some preliminary insurance numbers for next year, so we'll have a better handle on what that looks like going into 2023. On the balance sheet looks relatively stable. When you look at it at the top level, the variations from month to month are related to the timing when we bring the money in for the assessments. Some of it is put into liability, some of it's put into income, and as the month as you progress through the year, it gets shifted over to the income side. So that's why you see the variations from month to month. But in general, we've been pretty stable across the course of the year with the operating balance sheet. The reserve balance sheet is pretty healthy too. That reflects the increases we're seeing in the Fifth Third account right now. Okay? All set.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, new business, the Winterfest schedule.
Are there comments allowed by what Bill presented?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see why not.
I was just curious about I think I read that,
You skip old business?
Come back to it. Old business.
Old business?
We're still on treasury report.
yeah, I thought I heard that a company that was stopped October 31st, and I noticed that from November 1st to, I don't remember the date, that it was 75,000.
Yes. So
So
what
is that a
happened was,
different company?
no,
or-
that is the same company. It's just that we had Crawford break it into two different monthly invoices. So we had, so a bulk of their work occurred between September 29th and October 31st, and that's where the larger invoice is from. Then, when we got their invoice around the 3rd or 4th of November, what Chuck did is he asked them to pause their activity until he could negotiate a fixed work contract for them going forward. So we shifted, so originally we were on a time and materials contract, and now he's working on negotiating them to a fixed work contract to get all the tree stumps removed and finish the work in the community. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for the most part. But,
Okay.
it was almost 451,000,
Yes.
450,800
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Was there anything formal prior to their beginning at an estimate of 250,000 and it was 451? Was there anything
There-
contractually or in writing that not to exceed an amount?
So the contract was a straight time and materials contract, so there was no limit in it. Crawford was a bit delinquent in getting Chuck up to date with the invoice numbers.
The contract date actually dated prior to the hurricane.
Yes, the contract was executed back in April. So we were one of the few communities that basically had a removal contractor in place to start working essentially 2 days after the storm, instead of having to get into prolonged negotiations and pay after and storm rates to those contractors.
Okay, so this was a contract that was agreed upon earlier in the year.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And so I think it's fair to say that, once the numbers came out, one of the things that we did with Chuck and Yamali is that we sat down and tore apart their invoice, made them justify all the hours, found some inaccuracies, sent it back for them to rework it. And so we've tried to make sure that this was accurate as possible. And as I said, Chuck is moving them to a fixed contract basis going forward for the rest of the removals.
Okay. I was just concerned with the amount of the increase from what I had been led to believe. But if everything is in order, then it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
And they did a good job.
Yes, I think we can all agree that, I mean, if you just close your eyes and remember what this looked like on September 30th, it's hard to imagine that it was what we went through here. Yes.
I'll ask the tough question as a follow-up to Marilyn. Do we have any idea what the total cost is going to be over the 450?
451.
That's the,
75 added on.
so we will, and we'll have a better number as soon as they give me when we move to scope of work contract. So the scope of work contract it's broken up into the Cape Royal fence line, bridle fence line, Surfside fence line. All those areas are going to be
Huge.
They're going to be broken out into separate proposals by scope of work. So that's going to be the not to exceed. So when they come and they say it's going to cost this much to clear this away, we're going to count the trees with them. They're going to tell us the manpower, and then board has to agree that's what we're going to pay, and they have to stay inside those boundaries for contract.
You have a wild guess on what that number may be?
You know what? Wild guesses. If I would have known when they told us 2 weeks into this that it might have been 250, I probably would have never said it might have been. I'm just translating what they told us.
Sure.
Time and material. Like if that 250 number wasn't even on the radar, we got to 450. People would feel a little bit. You get that feeling that they jumped over some hurdle here, and they didn't tell us. We've been counting their guys. Bill and I meet, we were meeting every day at 10 o'clock, and we were basically counting their guys. So when they come in and sit by the tennis courts, and if there's 10 guys there, we write down 10 guys. When they tell us that they had 10 guys here, we can foot that and then apply the number to it. So that was the time and material run that we were doing. But now going forward, I wish I could answer your question, but Crawford pushed back a little bit. They said they needed another week or two to give us some better numbers. And then just when I met with them the other day, there's more areas out here that we didn't even think about along the pathway, along the back here. There's some trees that still were trimmed but need more trimming, and there's a lot of dead branches out here back by the bocce court that are going to have to get transferred from where they are to another area. Then we have all the stumps. We have a stump count. Every single stump has to be used another type of machinery to pull the stumps out and remove those. So I wouldn't even speculate because, if it's a wild guess kind of thing, but
I guess to kind of quickly summarize it is we know we've spent $450 or we've been invoiced for that. Do we have any invoices between the $450 and going to the fixed price?
75. Yeah, so if you look at the details, Todd, we've got it broken down in, so we've got $450 covers to the end of October, then until we stop them on November 4th, that's where the line item for $75K is.
So again, the message is we kind of know where we're at right now, but we know we've got them on a fixed price contract or per job contract going forward, that there's additional expenses coming, but we know what we've got today.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do know that the German American Club got an RFP and 3 responders, and they saved about $40,000 by going with the low bid.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, the main reason I questioned the contract, but now I understand it was done earlier in the year, which makes a whole different, it's a whole different ballgame when you've got an earlier contract rather than going out for an RFP.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When you're done, I just want to make a comment on that.
No. And I am aware that there are some streets, like Pamlico has a huge horticultural pile of trees and limbs and everything that needs to be picked up. Yeah. Will that be part of?
No.
That's FEMA.
That's FEMA.
That'll be FEMA?
Yeah.
Okay, wasn't sure.
No cost to us.
So just to put this in perspective, Marilyn, our base labor contract on the Crawford contract was $80 a labor hour. When DTE came here after the storm looking to charge us individually, they were charging $125 to $150 labor. So the thing is, I think yes, we might have saved some money if we had negotiated 3 different contracts after Ian, but I think getting it before Ian really saved the community. It's hard to quantify, but I think conceptually, I would argue that we saved ourselves money by having that contract in place back in April.
I agree.
Okay.
And when they give you that contract, and it's a contract every year that they present to the community in advance of hurricane season, it just kind of locks us into number 1 in line. You're in a position where you don't have to wait a week for them to show up. They're a known entity. Their trucks already have, stickers on them. They can get through. If the gates were there, they can get through the gates. So.
Do we have any difference in our contract with our company that picks up the garbage and the recycles? They're no longer picking up horticultural, so they should not be paid for horticultural.
Yeah, Crawford's not touching any more pickup. What Crawford was doing was picking up off the commons and moving it out to Hayden, which is property that we own, to make it easier, accessible for FEMA to pick it up, but also to save our sod by not letting all that sit there. They're not going to be relocating anymore. If you notice that there's piles out here in the parking lot, and that's going to stay there. On the note that you're asking about pickup, this gentleman dressed in in a fluorescent vest and an ID badge saying he was with FEMA, walked into my office the other day and said, "We're here from the state. We're going to be walking through your property. We're going to be taking pictures of all the different debris that you have." And then what they do is they take that information back to their office, and it seems the independent contractors, big black trucks, they tend to bid on these types of projects. And he basically said, "I can't tell you when they're going to come pick it up, but you have the type of trash that is very attractive to those independent contractors because it's fluffy horticultural. If you were at Shell Point, where you're talking about wet drywall, refrigerators, kitchen cabinets, they're not anxious to grab that kind of stuff." So
When that truck came down Castleberry where I live, there was a gentleman walking in front of and directing. And I just happened to be outside. So I asked if they would pull the root out, which they did. And they placed it next to where there was a big pile of limbs and everything. They said they could not take it then because it was still wet.
yeah.
And they couldn't put it in. So I was just pleased that they pulled it out.
Yeah, and I'm just pleased that guy showed up at my office this week. I can't tell you if he didn't say when. I know some people are going door to door because they filled out those individual notices. So they're looking at those individual notices as well as the overall property. But he told me that they were going to come, and this whole package is all of Sandoval inside the gate. So when they come, I don't know. They were here pretty much a full day, walking and taking pictures up every street. And from there, we're at their mercy to see when they show up.
I didn't receive anything, any notice or anything at my door. I don't know whether everybody did or was supposed to, but I know I did.
No, what had happened was the city project that was being done by their subcontractors ended, and the state took it over.
I see.
When the state took it over, I started calling emergency management, and they said, no, you cannot call on behalf of the homeowners. We need each individual homeowner.
But then you found out something different.
A couple days later, I found out something different. I had to go through several people and a supervisor, and they said, okay, yes, you have to do this process, and we'll take care of it for the entire community. So,
I would make a motion to approve Bill's treasury report.
I'll second.
Does it require approval?
I think so.
I think.
Absolutely.
Okay.
okay, any
Who's
discussion?
second?
Marilyn seconded.
Marilyn.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Old business pool equipment reno project.
My turn again?
It is.
Okay. Pool equipment. There's a meeting next week with the installer of the new pool equipment that was approved at the last meeting. The new motors are actually on their way here. They should be here today or tomorrow. Actually, a little too late for today. Another note around pool equipment is we have parted ways with Green and Clean, and they will be replaced by American Swimming Pool, Inc., effective 12/17. There was something that happened over this past weekend that was a safety issue for me, that the vendor allowed to happen, that I just can't let that pass. And we've been having problems with Green and Clean since the day I got here. I've had many discussions with them about where they needed to get better. That didn't happen, so we were parting ways. And we've fully vetted American Swimming Pools, and they clearly know. The good news is they have another lagoon pool in Fort Myers that they currently service. We got great comments from, obviously you're always going to get great comments from people giving you referrals, but we feel comfortable that we're making a great step forward here as far as our ability to take care of that pool.
How about the cost?
Relatively the same. It's actually they're going to be here 6 days a week, Green and Clean is currently here 5 days a week, so we've added an extra day for a couple $100. So
And as soon as I get those numbers from him, we'll make sure they're in the budget for next year.
what else?
Landscaping gray area.
Landscaping gray areas. As I mentioned briefly before, I'm awaiting quotes, obviously, for the continued tree cleanup and root ball removal, but I'm also awaiting quotes for the gray areas as well as the preserve areas that were approved a few meetings ago to quarterly take care of the invasives in the preserves. And Hurricane Ian. As I mentioned before, the pool reopened Saturday. Great news, the large umbrella canopies are here. 3 months in the making, we finally got them. We have a proposal for the replacement of the 2 tiki huts that were demolished in Calypso Park, and we're going to move ahead with that. That's probably 12 to 15 weeks out as far as getting that put back together again. They will also remove, we're trying to get them to remove the damaged tikis or chikis sooner than 12 weeks. If not, we may try to do something with our own maintenance to
That's
get
the
it
one
out
that
of
can
the way.
only be done by Native Americans, is that right?
I don't know if that's still true, but I know they used to.
I don't know.
So. Dog stations, the ones that were damaged, the new ones have arrived, and Brian is slowly getting those installed. And Monday, I should have our first proposal for erosion restoration for Lake 2, which butts up behind the dog park at Calypso. So that's that's going to be an important number. Also seeking additional quotes to make sure that that's not going to be an inexpensive number. So, and I think that's it for me.
Thank you.
Any questions? No?
Okay, new business now. Winter Festival schedule. The Winter Fest schedule is going to begin on December 4th at 4 p.m. We will have Santa and Mrs. Claus with a tree lighting, magician. Following the tree lighting, bounce houses, face painting, a Christmas shopping village. So that'll be a tent of vendors that will come in to sell Christmas items. We're going to do hot dogs and hamburgers on our own that day, and photos with Santa.
What time does it start?
It starts at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
4th at 4. We are also going to do a Christmas cookie exchange. The date is to be determined yet. If we do it during a time when kids are home, we're going to invite the kids to come up and do a little decorating off to the side while we're exchanging cookies. December 18th is Hanukkah Festival of Lights. The 18th is the first night of Hanukkah, and all are invited to share. We will begin with the lighting of the menorah and prayer, followed by a typical Hanukkah nosh or appetizers. We'll have music, playing the game of dreidel, fellowship with all residents of all faiths, and everyone is welcome to attend. That begins at 5:30, December 18th. And we are also going to use some of the older wreaths and have the kids decorate them at the Friday snack event that Lisa puts on, and they will be hung out by the pool. And that's it on the Winter Festival schedule.
I noticed that you said you would have a tent for vendors.
They're going to have their own,
They'll have
their own pop-up.
Because I was just going to say that I thought if you needed a tent that you were going to pay for, I think I could get one loaned.
From the,
But if the vendors are all
They're
getting
gonna
their own
bring their own.
tents, then we're not paying.
Right.
For Kiwanis, you mean?
Thank you. From
Yeah,
Kiwanis.
Kiwanis
That's nice.
is, I think we now have 10 tents.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. And I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to talk about it, but what about the Christmas decorations? I noticed that we've got a couple of wreaths
Started.
up here.
We started, so we have a committee of women that are working on Christmas decorations. The staff are working, well, the staff are working with Mrs. Grohl has donated, not leased, she's letting us borrow her decorations for their tree, and they're going to finish decorating the rest of the office building. Our team will decorate in here. We're going to have a couple more Christmas trees, and that decorating will take place the Monday after Thanksgiving. And then we have Whited Christmas Tree and Lights Company coming in between now and December 4th, that they'll be putting lights up through the community, mainly the front entrance, the gates, what gates are operational, and our Christmas tree. Because our Christmas tree is 17 years old and barely any needles on it.
Can I suggest to you to check the two Kiwanis stores? Because I know the North Store, the one on Del Prado at Pine Island Road, I think they have 4 Christmas trees that they would like to, and the prices are incredibly low. Plus they have 3 or 4 tables of Christmas decorations. So if you want to get something, and much of it looks new, and very, very reasonable prices.
Okay, thank you. There's 2?
There's 2 Kiwanis stores.
Okay.
I happen to know the North Store because I volunteer there, but the South Store is even bigger. So I don't know what they have.
That's one on 47th Terrace?
Yeah, 47th Terrace.
Right.
Thank you. Committee reports, landscaping, Grady.
Yes, the landscaping committee continues to be busy. David, who I guess got up and walked out, and Lynn have both been putting in some time to clean up a few webpage items. Linda Duclos has taken up the charge for reviewing the damages to the dog parks. I know that we had put in a request for, got some estimates for replacing or moving the fence at one of the dog parks. And that was the only piece of fence that was undamaged by the hurricane. So hopefully we'll be able to get what we want as these repairs come up. That's about it for the landscape committee. It's just things are going smoothly for them. They're getting a lot of work done. And as you can imagine, they've got a lot of inventory that they're going through about what's been going on around here since Ian. Today, or yesterday, Mo from Crawford came to visit. And Lynn, are they purchased now by Yellowstone? Did I understand that right?
Yes.
So he brought up the subject. Somebody asked, Lynn, I think you were the one that asked, how many trees did we lose? And so we were kind of as a group trying to figure out how many trees we lost. And it was 100, 150, and I thought 200. We lost 560 trees in just the common areas and the gray areas. So when you're looking at that big number that Bill had up there, give consideration to just exactly how much work Crawford did. They were here with a chainsaw at the front gate, the morning after the storm. And I remembered seeing them, cutting it out so that the emergency vehicles could get here. We were very lucky that we had that contract signed at the rate that we did. So
I paid $1,400 to have a tree removed behind my house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and if you do the math on that, if you just considered that they were doing trees, that's $800 a tree. So it's not there. In perspective, that number becomes realistic, but it's not over yet. We've still got a lot to go. But they've done a great job, and they continue to give us good advice on what we should and should not do with trees as we go forward. And I think the landscape committee will be sharing some of that a little later. The art committee.
Can I add one more thing, Grady? Yeah. We didn't realize that Mo had this video, but the day that they came in after the hurricane, he was taking video as he was trying to maneuver around trees, and he's promised to send us that video so we can kind of look back and say how bad it was, the first couple hours. Yeah. We'll post that up town square.
The comment that you made about the dog park, I have to make an exception to that, because the dog park that I take my dogs to, when I took them for the first time yesterday, I was told immediately to bring them to the small dog section because there was a big hole in the fence in the large dog section.
For Happy Paws, yeah.
Yes, okay, so you're aware of that damage.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I imagine it's on somebody's list.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Linda Zuclos, I stopped her the other day and I said, you're going to walk the dogs off that dog. Because she's out every day with her camera and she's documenting and taking videos of the different sections that are damaged. So she's doing a great job.
Okay.
She's staying healthy.
The fence was opened up so that Crawford can get their machinery through the fence.
Okay,
And there is large holes and root balls and irrigation. It's still not, even if we put the fence back together again, it's not a safe place that I'd let my dog run around in there because of the hazards that are potholes and things of that nature. So we're going to have to get in there and remove all the debris and then put topsoil in there to kind of bring back the soil and then close up the fence.
okay. If anybody's interested, on Skyline, they have a huge staging area where they're chipping for horticultural, and one side is what needs to be done, and the other side is what will be mulch. And it's just unbelievable when you see how much is in there.
Thank you. ARC.
The art committee is putting in a lot of work, as you can imagine, ramping up for the number of applications they're getting. A lot of people, and it's not just roofs, a lot of people are doing a lot of different things to repair for storm damage. I think that they meet this Saturday, so they should be processing some applications this Saturday. Otherwise, they're just trying to ramp up to meet the needs that we've got going forward.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Okay, Stan's not here for amenities and gym. Let's see, amenities and gym. Is that
Security.
security, which you covered that already?
Didn't cover security yet.
Okay. You did. Yes?
Stan's proposal?
Yeah.
Sid?
Okay.
So that would be understand, but Stan's not here.
Okay.
You want me to cover for Stan?
Sure, please.
The safety and security team, our committee, presented a proposal, and I think Stan forwarded it. There was a couple of different edits to it, so I believe he sent the most recent edit out to the board members. Let me know if you don't have it. I didn't. It might be. It's in your packet.
I have it. It
Is
is. It is.
Is it?
I've already seen it.
Oh, yeah, it
Okay.
is, and I have read this.
So the committee, the Safety and Security Committee, through several meetings and discussions, found issues with global security services, with their patrols, with their guards. John, you can even hear, they're here leaving the coffee pot on at night. They're not patrolling where they're supposed to be. They're kind of harassing some of our owners for insignificant kind of things. And it was time for a change. So the committee is recommending replacing Global Securities. They did their due diligence. They interviewed 3 or 4 different security firms, and they came up with a recommendation to go with another A+ protection security. I agree with their recommendation. Stan agrees with their recommendation, and that we just notifying the board that we're going to move ahead with termination of their contract.
Well, it's also less expensive.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's a level of it was time for change. Get into the multitude of things where things went wrong, but they feel comfortable in this A+, and I back the recommendation. It's really not a vote. It was really informational for the board. Anytime that we have a standing committee that makes these recommendations, and I endorse their recommendation, I just want to make sure that the board knows that committee they put a lot of homework into this.
Great work.
So,
They did excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, John, Lakes.
Okay. Chuck's already touched on one of the issues, but I'll cover it in a minute. You know, having an effective Lakes Committee is really essential. If you look at the meetings we've been to with other communities where their lake people are there, the Lakes Committee is often very strong and very responsive, and we've needed one for a while. I want to applaud the fact that we have a good committee now. We met first yesterday. We cleaned up a couple of language on the charter. It's a charter we'd approved, but it needed some wording edited. And I've submitted that to you again. They've elected a chairman, and the board needs to vote on approving that chairman as Jane Simonelli. I'd like to recommend that Jane be allowed to be chairman of the Lakes Committee. I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Is Miss Simonelli here? Would she like to stand? Thank you for volunteering. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Where do we send your check?
Yeah.
To her husband.
Now, we talked about the, well, let me go back to the charter. We updated the charter document. We talked about the duties and challenges of it. And one thing we got to do now, because the budget process is so upon us, is there are lakes issues having to do with the budget. So we need to work quickly to try to get as much information as we can to you. The ongoing contracts are going to pretty much stay the same. Whether we go with Solitude or replacement, the prices are going to be pretty much the same. So that doesn't take a whole lot of changes to the budget. One big one is the repair of the Phase 2 lake, which was damaged by Hurricane Ian, and we don't have that quote yet, but it has to be done. Another is an anticipation of erosion requirements. And we're going to work with people to try to get a little better feel on that in order to do an estimate of what we might have to spend over the course of next year. There will be some times that we will have to go in and fix erosion. There have already been a couple of homes where we know that we'll need to go in and put a fix in place, and we want to do it as judiciously as possible. This committee will assist the general manager in looking at the contracts from the vendors that are being proposed, and a big one is to work with our vendors to work on the littoral plant management. We need to add some somewhere. We need to take some plants out that are not right, like the alligator weed and so forth. And some of them we can actually move. We have some that more than we need, we can move them to another location and save money. So this committee is well attuned to doing that process, and they've made some additional thoughts. Our residents need to know more about lakes, so we want to put together some presentations to be brought at board meetings or other meetings to talk about lake management, lake health, and how to live with a healthy lake, and that we're working on as well. The next meeting is to be held on the 14th of December, and we'll let you know what happens then. Thank you very much again, Jane.
Okay, Marilyn.
The social committee, I wasn't there. It was really up in the air, and with Lauren's resignation, which I was very surprised to learn that morning, and also, was there a reason why she left so quickly? Because normally, don't you give like 2 weeks notice, or? And if I'm not mistaken, I think I read that her notice was on a Wednesday and she left on Friday? Is that?
That's correct.
That's correct. I won't even ask you now why, but would imagine she just decided that there was a better offer someplace else. But anyway, because it was so up in the air, I received a phone call from my granddaughter to come babysit. So that's what I did. I was taking care of a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at the time of the meeting.
The Winterfest is all we talked about, getting
And that
volunteers.
you gave the
and-
report on.
Yep, and delegated who would be in charge of this, and that. I
Sure
forgot
sounds
what-
like, though, that you're doing a lot better job toward holidays than we did last year.
Yeah.
Trying
Really
to,
appreciate that.
trying to.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Really do.
Forgot we're doing house decorating parties,
Yeah.
competition too, forgot to mention.
So
that.
one just thing to add to the social committee, Ron Thompson was able to sit down with Lauren and get preliminary budget numbers for 2023.
Okay.
So we've rolled those in to the budget draft that we've got worked on right now. So we do have those.
Okay, very good.
So we may have a follow-up discussion on that, but I think we've got a good first pass on it.
And Lauren had indicated at the meeting in October that she had a great deal of experience doing budgets, and so I think that's the direction that the committee decided to go, since Lauren said she had a handle on it.
Yeah, it was pretty comprehensive. So we've got those numbers incorporated into with the details.
Good, you have it.
It's got it down to plastic forks and paper towels. right?
And donuts.
And
Oh,
donuts.
good, good.
Communications?
Okay, I do have some recommendations from the Communications Committee, and I suppose I need to read each one into the record, although the minutes will be on both sites, Town Square and Live Sandoval.
Sure, just touch base on
Okay.
the meaty parts.
They recommended that the Architectural Review Committee rules and regulations be incorporated into the resident handbook, which I think is a good idea. It's easier for access and eliminates confusion. And it's the recommendation that updates to Town Square be done in conjunction with Live Sandoval by the general manager or whoever he designates that duty to, so that everybody has the information that they need. It's to help with information. And there was discussion about the multiple Facebook pages associated with Sandoval, but there is only one official page, and they'd like that to be, for the residents to know that that's the only official Facebook page. And they would like access to Facebook page to post official announcements to the residents, and that board members would like to see that happen, so that again is timely information. Communication is their largest concern. And the communication center residents informing them that Sandoval Cape Coral is the only Facebook page needs to be prominent, so that there is not confusion with the other individuals that desire to have a Facebook page that looks like the official one.
Who can post to that now?
Who can post to the Facebook page?
It was the lifestyle director, it is Vic, and Mr. Fowler posts pictures.
Okay.
Dave, is there anybody else?
I don't know, because I don't have access to it, so I have no idea.
Those are the only.
No? Okay.
And there's also, I got an email today from Sean that they would like to be able to consolidate headings on Live Sandoval. And what was the second thing? There was two things.
Basically, it was, we want to be able to try to make the Live Sandoval more user-friendly, and we want to be able to redo some of the things on there. And, you know, if you go out there and you look at it, you can see there's change anything without the board's, we're not gonna change the content or anything without board approval, but we want to be able to rearrange the format.
That's fine. We're good with that. Okay. Anything else? You good?
That's it.
Go ahead.
Just one comment that I want to make. I think any reformatting that's done on the website needs to also take into account that the formatting has to work on mobile devices now. It's not very, the current format is not very mobile device friendly.
You know,
It doesn't.
right now, the way the Sandoval is set up, documents and everything are just put out there in formats that are not compatible.
Yeah.
Really?
So not only do we want to clean up the appearance of the website, we also need to go in and take documents off, reformat them, and then load them back out. So if we are aware that with all the different devices, we've got to make it user-friendly for everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Okay. Neighborhood reps. So we met on November 2nd, and we discussed Halloween at some length. Halloween feedback was mostly positive. The main concern was that there was an increase in cars in streets, and some were driving fast, and that's something that we need to address next year on how we're going to deal with Halloween
I
next
think the
year.
way of gates next year will help.
It would,
Because
yeah.
we had
That
a lot of
had
people coming
a
to
lot
Pine
to
Island
do
Gate
with it.
in cars and vans, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so the Winter Festival I already mentioned. They brought up questions on Phase 3 privacy fence, which we will put on the December agenda because there has been documentation information found and discussed with legal. We talked about the debris issues. The DTE schedule is every other week now. They asked if mulch was coming out yet, but we discussed the fact that we need to clear all the debris, obviously, first before we get into mulching. Violations with parking and tows have begun, 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., and we've been having a couple a night here and there of people still parking, and towing is being reenacted since the hurricane. There's questions about status of renters, and risk management had brought up that they would like to revamp the renters issues, and we'll talk about that at a future meeting. New resident orientation was put on the back burner with the home sales now standing still after the hurricane, but we'll restart that soon with the new lifestyle director. And we are going to have a test run of it with some volunteers here. And our next meeting is December 7th. And that's it with the neighborhood reps for now. And finance, Bill?
Okay. The Finance Committee, we had our last meeting on Tuesday the 15th. During the course of the meeting, we did a review of the current E&M expenses that were presented to the board a little while ago. We spent a lot of time going through the reserve study, looking at the impact of assessments to the reserve and some different scenarios for funding the reserve account going forward. We came back with a couple different suggestions about how we may split it up, so we'll do another pass of that and get that ready for the review of the budget meeting. Most of the, all the members of the Finance Committee took on assignments to work with the different committees to get a roll-up of budget numbers for next year. We're in pretty good shape with the exception of landscape that's going to need a little bit more work, so we'll have someone to follow up on that. And we have meetings with Associa and the president to review administrative and personnel expenses to get that built into the board. That is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And with the board, or the Finance Committee has scheduled that we're going to do the main roll-up and prepare the budget recommendations at our next Finance Committee meeting on December 15th, or excuse me, December 5th. So that'll give us a few days to pull together the recommendations and the budget package for the review with the community on the 13th.
question.
Shoot.
Did the reserve study yield a number we're to shoot for? A bottom line number we need to get to? It's higher than what we have now?
You mean in terms of the account balance?
Well, no, we do a reserve study for 3 years, right?
The reserve study is actually out 30 years. And so the reserve, and I can plow through the details, but obviously we'll make a copy of it available to everybody, because we just got a soft copy. As of Tuesday, I only had a hard copy, so we'll get that distributed to the board as soon as possible. The reserve model tried to keep the balance at around $3 million.
Okay.
So that gives us enough of a cushion to cover. There's a couple of years where there are, and those are 6-7 years out in the future, where the expenses are in excess of $1 million for planned work on the community, primarily road repair and stuff like that.
Oh, and I assume what rate of inflation are we assuming in that study?
They, over 30 years, they're averaging, I have to go back and check their spreadsheet, but I want to say it's like somewhere between 3 and 5%. Because they've averaged it over,
right.
But they did build in some higher estimates over the first few years to reflect the current inflation, from what I could tell.
Right.
Okay.
So $3 million you think will be sufficient balance to carry forward?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the roads have got to be repaired at some point. Right. The pool's going to need more replacement. The amenities are going to have to be replaced.
Our budget this year.
10 years down the road, the bocce guys are going to be looking for a new court again.
Our budget this year was around $330,000, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
For the total year.
Yeah.
And we will exceed that because of home sales, but now we got to work on.
No, actually, we're
short. Right?
You mean in terms of what's coming out?
This for 2022.
I have to go back and look at those numbers, John. I don't have those off the top of my head.
Okay.
That's one of the things I want to get ready for the budget presentation, is a pretty detailed list of what we spent out of what we approved for spend out of the reserve funds this year.
Right.
Any question? Oh, yep.
Any information on the insurance claim, as far as have we gotten anything? And I know the answer to this because I haven't received anything. But any idea as far as a loss report that they've provided, or any idea as far as what we would be receiving back as far as the claim?
Nothing yet.
No,
So
yeah.
I've been calling very frequently and speaking with the adjuster that came out, and then they call the gentleman in the office adjuster, and they ask us to be patient. And I have handed that daily calling over to the staff association, asking them to keep looking into it, because those calls between that and FEMA and the Federal Department of Emergency Management, et cetera, I was on phone all day, several hours. So it should be coming soon. But when we toured with him, the talk was that it was not going to be sufficient, and that we are going to definitely have to fight it for more money.
And if there is a second claim, the lightning strike, and I have been in touch with that adjuster. They constantly keep asking prior to the storm, additional information, additional quotes, and we're providing that information to their completely different claim. But that one seems to be moving along a lot faster than the hurricane one. So
I think it's also important that everybody understands that landscaping is not covered under the insurance. If you were to insure landscaping, it would be an extraordinary expense. So it's important to understand, because there's a lot of people that speculate that our insurance policy covers the landscaping. So that was more of a comment than anything else. The other two quick things I had, it kind of goes back to the security thing, and it made me think, did we formally give Global a termination letter?
yes.
Okay. They were on a 30-day letter. They were on a 30-day notice. Is that what you gave them a letter? I would assume, based on your December 17th timeline, you gave it to them today or this week.
conferred with council, and the termination letter is going out. Wanted to wait for the committee meeting here.
And as a follow-up to that, is the risk management committee reviewing the contract with the new firm?
They will, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on the finance committee?
Okay, thank you. Covenants, I sent it, just the one that we have with photos. Did everybody get those photos?
Yeah.
Of the before and after? So, the resident in question proceeded with a driveway extension without an ARC application, was asked to stop. A letter was sent, and it stopped briefly, and then no ARC application was done, and they not only restarted, they finished. The answer was that they were trying to do a repair, not an extension, and that the driveway needed a repair. It was buckling because of roots from trees. However, the pictures do not reflect that. So the pictures reflect that in fact it was an extension, and so we need to move to fine. Need to ask about, go ahead.
I thought the biggest error was not abiding by what ARC asked them to do, that they were told to stop, and they didn't. I think they should have stopped and appealed to ARC, because that was not, when I first read it, I thought it was an extension of their driveway going more into the street. It was not an extension, it was going wider.
Right. I think that's what we refer to as extensions generally.
It went to the left, didn't it? It
Yeah,
went to the left,
it went to the left. It kind of looked like, and it was only from the picture, but it kind of looked like it matched the entryway. I don't know whether it did or not, and it was only a couple of inches. I probably would have accepted that. However, I don't accept the fact that when ARC told them to stop, that they didn't stop. And also, I believe that they were fined for something else, I don't know what, but they were fined for something else, and they didn't pay their fine. Now, is that correct information?
If you feel that it's appropriate to this discussion.
Okay. Normally, I would make a recommendation as a board member to all of us that we allow them to go back and ask ARC for forgiveness and pay the fee and do the application.
Yes.
However, that would be limited to people that are in good standing and people that have no other prior violations. And this particular residence has prior violations, and they remain unpaid.
And
I think that's important to the discussion, so.
yeah, no, I agree. But that wasn't for me to determine. In this particular instance, what you're saying about going back and applying to ARC, which that happens all the time, because some people, to your point earlier in email, some people just don't know what the rules are. And we get that. But in this particular instance, you have to look at the work that was done, and then you have to look from the perspective of whether ARC would approve what was completed, and they would not.
But then they could appeal to the board.
They could absolutely appeal for a variance to the board to get that approved. No doubt about that. But it's just important to recognize that in addition to saying they could go back and reapply, the ARC team would not approve that work as it is now done.
And I'll tell you briefly, or I'll try to. While I was on the city council, I know that the restaurant at the yacht club was denied their permit, their completion permit, because the handrail going up was off by 1 inch. I thought that was ridiculous, 1 inch. I kind of had to say same feeling when Brady, you told me it was 1.5 inches or something. That was not a significant reason to deny. However, overriding is the fact that they didn't follow when they told them to stop. Plus, they had another fine that they have not paid. Those things come into play. That's the full story.
Right. Well, the measurements, you can't really tell because you're allowed to widen it to the corners of the garage. And from that picture, it looks like they did go a little further. But, until somebody actually goes out there and takes a look at it, that would be up for grabs. But the color definitely doesn't match. And they did have an opportunity to, stop and do the right thing. Right. And they chose not to. And there are other things that went into it. There's more to it. But those are the key elements, and based upon what you sent in the email today.
I think the big violation is the process, not necessarily the result, but the process, and we should impose a fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
How much fine?
Pardon me? Oh, the fine is a standard $100 fine for everything. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Grady, we're done, but you wanted to...
I don't want to take up anybody else's, too much of your time, but something that just has touched me, and I haven't had an opportunity to really talk to anybody about it since it happened, but recently we lost a resident. And I think everybody, whether you knew his name or not, you knew him. Bob Higgs passed away recently. He was a beautiful gentleman. For those that didn't know him, he was in a wheelchair, and he was very attentive to what went on in the community and for the board, and he stayed active in different things. And things got difficult towards the end. It's very unfortunate that we lose a resident, but I just wanted to take a minute, not a moment of silence, but just a minute for everybody to think about Bob and consider, what his wife, Laura, has been through and what she's experiencing now. It's a shame that we lose anybody. Sometimes I think we make a list of the people we'd like to lose, and the people that we do lose never appear on that list. And this is one of those instances, but Bob was a great man. He was very funny. He was very kind, and he will be missed. And for those of you who didn't know, I just wanted to make sure that you knew Bob Higgs did pass away.
Bob was a very good friend of mine. I saw him every week.
It's hard.
At least once. He will be missed, and we'll have a celebration of his life on the 4th. At the same time we're celebrating Christmas. We'll do both. We will do both. His family needs it. So we miss Bob terribly.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. The next meeting date is December 15th. Well, no, December 1st. The next regular meeting is December 15th. And all business was completed, and the meeting is adjourned.
And it's what time?